I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting for the City of Springdale for May 21st, 2025. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As summer begins and we celebrate graduations of all sorts between high school and college and welcome these new members into our community, let us keep in mind our community as a whole as we begin this new season. And let us incline our ears towards reason, apply our hearts to understanding, and seek knowledge we can use to find common ground among the residents for the betterment of our entire community. Thank you. Ms. Browder, if you can take roll.
Mr. Gleaves?
Present.
Mr. Jacobs?
Present.
Ms. McFarland?
Present.
Mrs. Seldon-Weisskopf?
Present.
Mr. Vanover?
Present.
Mrs. Webster? Mr. Anderson?
Present. Ms. Webster indicated that she wasn't feeling well, so she won't be attending tonight. All right, Council, in your packets, you had the minutes from the May 7, 2025 meeting. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion or changes? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved with 6 affirmative votes. All right, moving right along. Next on our agenda, we have a proclamation for Public Works Week. Mayor Hawkins, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. President. The proclamation reads, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, emergency management, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Springdale. And whereas the infrastructure, facilities, and services, including snow removal, wood chipping, and street sweeping, could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, and who are responsible for the rebuilding, improving, and protecting of our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public's interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children of the city of Springdale to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, themed as People, Purposes, Presence, and sponsored by American Public Works Association. Now therefore, I, Lawrence C. Hawkins III, Mayor of the City of Springdale, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18 through May 24, 2025 as National Public Works Week.
Happy to set the proclamation on the public works too. I'm very glad that we have. We've got people sitting.
And thank you again for all you do. Public Works is one of the foundational elements of the city. We really do appreciate the work you do. When police and fire come in, they like to fill the room. They left you here to handle on your own. But I think that's a testament to the same kind of work that happens every day. You see them out driving the trucks, fixing the roads, working on our lands. So we appreciate the work that Public Works does. It really is appreciated. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, we have Energy Alliances here to speak to us about energy aggregation. Dan Dieters, I think, has some comments to make and then is available for questions.
Sure. I'll be pretty brief. It looks like you got a busy night tonight. So
brief overview of the program that started in September 2023 up until March this year. Any resident that's in the program, average residents save $275, $750,000 for the whole city. Your rate was 6.99 cents kilowatt hour through those times. The Duke rate came out and started, and will start this next read in June at 10.45 cents kilowatt hour. So what that's going to do for the next 3 months is Springdale residents with the kind of the hangover from the old rate, it's going to save about $35 a month for the next 3 months. So it's going to be, you know, average resident $370 to $400 for the iteration of the program for the 2 years. So that said, we're here tonight, I think, to ask you to give your city manager authority to sign the next deal coming up prior to September. Obviously, we have to file with the PUCO pretty early. So we've been out pricing it. That price from Duke is pretty substantial, and we're going to do our best to beat it as much as we can. Every one of our communities is in the $15 savings range per month off of that price that we've signed in the last 4 or 5 months. So we fully expect Springdale to have you know, something that will be of service to the residents. So that's kind of where we are on it. As I think we discussed this the last time, the suppliers are no longer holding these prices past 5 o'clock any day. It makes it very difficult for any council to come and meet without giving the official notice that you have to give, because we get the prices about 11 o'clock. If we think they're good, we make the recommendation to the city manager and ask them to sign the master service agreement. That's kind of where we are at this point, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you for coming out, giving information. You always make yourself accessible to administrative staff and elected officials, as well as residents can contact you and call if they have questions with regard to any of the aggregations that go on. So I just appreciate you always taking the time and making yourself available.
Absolutely. When your residents call our office, they'll talk to me, or they'll talk to somebody else that you know is in a position that has the information to give them to make sure that their problem is handled at our local level, and we don't want to ship them off to the suppliers, because it's just a lot of, even from the suppliers, and misinformation can come in. So we like to make sure that we handle it so we can take the weight off of your staff. So,
Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dan, is the pool of, I guess you'd call it generation players, is it stabilized or is it still dwindling?
So electric is, there's very few that do it in the state of Ohio. There's about 4 or 5 that do it in the state of Ohio that are certified to run aggregations. As you know, these aggregations, they have to buy that power for your community. So it's pretty expensive to do. So the guys you see knocking on your doors and calling your cell phone are not the guys that can handle these. But the pool of folks that can handle it is pretty stable at this point. Gas a little bit less so. Constellation dropped out of it, and we think that they may come back in, but we're not sure it'll be this year, but maybe in the near future. But we're getting good pricing from the 4 or 5 that do it. Meaning it's you know, better than Duke and
right
and more than competitive.
One question I have, so a lot of times when these renewals come up, I get a lot of feedback from residents. One of the primary questions I get is, aside from the usual, is this a scam like the knockers or not, or how is this different than, you know, I had a bad experience in the past with early termination. When we do these contracts, we never have termination fees. People can join and come out if they want, so there's not a risk. We're just taking on that aggregation for you and doing that legwork.
Yep.
When we established the ability to do an aggregation, it had to go to the voters, and the way it was written was an opt-out program. That the only way we can do it is that you have to set it up for everyone that's eligible, and then if anyone wants to, they have to opt out. Other communities have started doing opt-in programs. I'm wondering if you could share if you've seen more people switching to that to kind of address the concern of people saying, hey, why are you making a business decision for me? Or is that just an outlier?
Well, it's a lot of, it's very much an outlier. So we actually started with it used to be the old Duke Energy Services was the retail arm with opt-in programs, and the pricing just never was any good. So it's no different than the guy knocking on your door, because how those work is they buy a block of energy, they go out and sell that whole block, I'm sorry, to whoever they can sell it to door, over your cell phone, all that stuff. And then once that's over, that might be 10, 15, 20 people. There's no way to get the kind of pricing for a city this large without having an opt-out program. Opt-in programs, I mean, I've heard that a lot. I mean, if you want to be terribly honest about the whole thing, you're in an opt-out program with Duke, but the PUCO is running it, and the utilities are running it. You're just taking this piece of the pie, the energy puzzle, and you're bringing it to the local level. So there's really no such thing as an opt-in program, because the third-party market that you see on the apples to apples, which is fraught with danger. There's all kinds of fees, there's all kinds of hidden things. At the end of the term, they're going to give you a rate, and if you don't either cancel it or get a new rate or get out of that program, you could be in a deal that's, I've seen 18, 20 cents a kilowatt hour at the end of those. And 1 month of that, and you'll feel the sting. So when you talk about opt-in, opt-out, the utility is running an opt-out program essentially. You're in one already. All this is doing is pulling that portion, the energy purchase portion, away from the utility and putting it in your hands so that you can say, okay, this is a good deal, or it's not a good deal. And we wouldn't recommend something to you that's over the Duke rate. So, and we actually sent, this year, we sent about 13 communities back to Duke for a month because they were uneasy with how high the rates were and then what Duke was gonna be. Now, it turns out that they probably all would have wished they'd assigned and saved that 1 month, because that 1 month is this month at 10.45 cents. So, but I get it. It's a sure winner now. We know we have a sure winner now, and they knew they have a sure winner now. So that's okay, and you're not going to lose anything because you go back to Duke for a month. The only problem is you get a little bit of a headache from all the letters going out and things like that. So the bottom line on opt-out and opt-ins is opt-in programs don't offer any general savings, and if you wanted to do that, you could do that on apples to apples yourself. But at the end of the day, the PUCO requires them to give you that new price at the end of that term, whatever that term may be. And if you're not watching carefully, that's where all the bad stuff in our industry comes from.
Well, from our standpoint, we don't have an option to do opt-in without going back to the voters to changing our program, but it is good to understand that if it were an opt-in program, we should not expect the same level of savings.
You'd never get to that.
Okay, that's good. Good information. Thank you. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. One other question, as we're having some discussion up here, in terms of assuming council gives authority to go through and do this, we get the rates, we'll get rates that are brown and green.
Yeah, so you can do, well, I believe Springdale has a regular default rate, and then you can opt into a renewable credit rate, and that's essentially those folks will end up buying renewable credits to build renewable energy generation in the future. That's how that works. We can't separate it at the pole. I did have a nice lady ask me that, do we separate it, the green and the brown at the pole? No, we can't do that.
But that's good for residents to know
Sure.
if they've got that concern, there's an opportunity for them to address that.
It's a little bit of a higher rate. Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a higher rate, and it'll be on the opt-out. And you can call us, or you can call, if you felt like calling the supplier, we can set you up with either.
Thank you.
And you'll see something, I would say end of July, early August is the target when maybe middle of July even. So when people see those letters, but of course the administration will have to sign off on those anyway. So you'll have a good idea when those are going to hit.
Mr. Cleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for coming down. Do you have anything in place to address seniors that are at the level where they might be confused with the verbiage and how you mentioned opt-in, opt-out, and all this type of stuff? Aggregation would probably be weird for them because back in the day, they're just used to CG&E, do whatever it may be, just one unit. So do you have anything in place to make it easier for them to understand what you're doing?
It's very difficult for us to reach them if they don't reach out to us because we don't know who's confused. The best advice I can give is to have the staff make sure they just refer those folks to us, because we'll teach them how to read their bill. We'll teach anybody how to read their bill. I've come in here, a time or two and met with residents and taught them how to read their bill, taught them what all the tariffs mean, what the numbers mean, what the charges mean, what the delivery is, all of that stuff. The best thing you can do, the quickest thing you can do is get them to us. Now, in Delhi, they have a senior center that I go about once a year, and I go and sit, and they have a lunch, and they bring their bills, and if anybody has any questions, I explain the whole thing to them, and I sit there for an hour or two, and I'm happy to do that for any community.
We have a group of seniors that meet at our recreation center, I believe, maybe once every month. You might want to look into that to see if you can meet with them.
If you,
I think
whoever
that would be
directs
beneficial.
that, if they give me a call, I'm happy to arrange a day to come and do that with them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? And I'll take this as one more opportunity to warn anyone that's listening to protect your Duke bill when those people come to your door that you don't know who they are. There's a piece on your Duke bill that people don't realize is the same thing as a password. That choice ID that's on your bill, anyone who's unscrupulous can take that just by looking at it, writing it down while they check it, and they can force your utility into whatever program they want to force it. It's not legal, but it happens. I've talked to a number of residents this has happened to, where they just, I need to verify your bill. Duke doesn't do that. And protect your bill like it's your password, because you have a plain text password on your bill right now. You need to be really careful with that, because it can cost you hundreds of dollars.
That's the most important thing you could do. Absolutely do not show anybody your bill, because they can move it without, and it'll be, you may not know it for
Months.
2 meter reads. So it may not take effect the first time they get your bill because it's in the middle of the read cycle. Then the next time you'll see that it'll be on there, and that might be, and you'll be 55 days down the road, and you'll be like, when did this happen?
And then you're stuck with a termination fee even to undo the work that shouldn't have happened either, and you're out hundreds more dollars just to get off that higher rate. So please, if you're listening, please be careful with your Duke bills. It is important and private information that's on there.
There are also remedies for that. If you have them call our office, we can direct them to the people that can help them terminate those without fees.
Good.
Many times.
That's good to know.
Because they have to have some sort of a record of you. If they can't produce the recording of you telling them that you want to change over, they have to give you back all your money.
Yeah.
So there's a remedy for that if that's happened.
It's a lot of phone calls and a lot of trouble, so please just be careful. But thank you for coming in and sharing the information. We'll be addressing that resolution later this evening.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, next on the agenda is committee and official reports. First up is Civil Service Commission. I believe, do we have a report from admin? Ms. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, Mr. Coleman could not be here this evening. The Springdale Civil Service Commission did meet on May 1st, 2025 here at the Municipal Building. All members of the commission were present, including our newest member, Mr. James Donegan. He was given the oath of office and sworn in at the meeting, and then subsequently he was elected as secretary of that commission, so automatic appointment. We had a relatively light meeting, disposition of the minutes from the April 3rd meeting. We also had 2 reports on current hiring processes, one for our firefighter. We have a few replacements due to departures, so we had interviews scheduled for that. And then also our parks maintenance worker, we have a couple of individuals in the background process. A few pieces of correspondence, and Mr. Dunnigan shared some background information about himself with the commission, and the other commission members reciprocated, and then we concluded. So our next meeting will be on June 5th at 2 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Next up, Rules and Law, Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules and Law had a special meeting just previous to this council meeting, and our discussion was, as directed by council, to look at a potential portal for residents to express interest in serving on various commissions and boards as those come up. And it was a relatively brief meeting. Admin had created a draft of an application, a hard copy, and we had discussed some of the features. We suggested some additions in a few places. The first thing we attacked was just in general whether this process would be a must or a should, and the consensus was this would be a should and not a requirement for residents, but something that we would want to encourage to respect the effort that administration is going to put into this as they create the draft and get something to present to members of council. The early vision includes a portal, and a resident would go to the city webpage, for example. There'd be an app, or I'm sorry, a link to an app, and then on that same page would be some very short summaries of all the commissions so that residents would have an idea what those commissions do. And we also discussed how that short summary could actually be links that would take them to further descriptions, including meeting times, so that if a resident is interested in serving on planning commission, they would know when they meet and what time they meet, as an example. So those things are being developed, and the last we heard is, or the last we decided is that admin is going to create a draft to distribute to members of council, and then we can discuss further. Okay, that's all I have unless there are questions.
Don't see any. That sounds great. Thank you for that work. All right, next up, Finance Committee, Mr. Vandover.
No report.
Planning Commission, Ms. Sullivan-Weiscup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission met on May 13th, and we had Beyond Hello, a concept plan at 12140 Springfield Pike. It's the old Bargo's. It was requesting a concept plan for review an additional existing building with proposed marijuana dispensary use. They had come last month as well, and they were just coming to talk to us and update on the ideas that they had, how they had used our feedback and came back to us. And then I believe that they're ready to move to the next level, which is actually coming with a plan either next month or soon. We also had Master Supply for conditional use at 225 Northland Boulevard. It used to be Frame USA. It was a public hearing. We did not have anyone come to speak for or against. The applicant was requesting a conditional use to allow for outdoor storage, and it will be like the fencing is going to comply with our code, and basically they have big pipes that won't fit and won't be able to get in and out of the building, so the pipes will need to be stored outdoors on these racks. So we approved that 7-0. And we had Active Day Ohio, PUD major modification. Both Ms. McFarland and myself found it to be major, and it's at 865 East Kemper Road. It is the space between AutoZone and K&G. This is for an adult daycare for people with special needs and adult individuals. And that was passed with a 7-0 vote as well. And that was everything that I have, unless you have anything to add, Ms. McFarland, or if there's any questions.
Don't see any. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Zoning Appeals met in these chambers April 22nd at 7 p.m. All were present. We had 2 public hearings. First one was BZA application 20250160, Unity Care Group, 305 Cameron Road. The property owners are requesting a variance to allow 2 signs, 1 ground sign, 1 wall sign, where only 1 permanent identification sign is permitted per section 153.459B5. That variance was approved by a 4-3 vote. The next one was BZA application 20250161, 250184. Brennan Molin at 12067 Mallard Drive. The property owners are requesting a variance to all for a residential single household to have a zero-car garage where one car is the minimum garage size permitted per table 252-2 of the Springdale zoning code. That variance was denied by a 7-0 vote. If there are any questions, that's all I have.
Don't see any, thank you. All right, next report is from Board of Health, Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Health last met on May 8th in these chambers. The meeting started with Mayor Hawkins presenting a resolution to Dr. Webb, who is our retiring medical director. That was his last meeting. One of the partners from his practice will be taking over come September when we rejoin. We did have a few updates from the food program. The Wawa has been pushed back. There is not a new expected date on that. In Slick City, the place that's opening over by Dave & Buster's is working on their permits. Mr. Clayton, the commissioner, gave us some summer updates that the department is planning to work on. They are going to have a mental health resource fair June 3rd from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the community center. They are also going to spend some time working on a community health improvement plan and personal and professional development for both the staff and the students. And nurse visits included 16 patients for vaccines, where 67 vaccines were given, and 46 blood pressure screenings. And we are now on summer break. Our next meeting will be September 11th.
Thank you for that report. Next, we'll go to capital improvements. Ms. Sullivan-Weiskamp.
Thank you. No report.
All right, the next report is for OKI. The OKI Board of Directors did meet on May 8th. A couple items of discussion you might be interested in. We had a presentation about the American River Roots Festival. If you haven't seen anything about this out in the public, you will soon. It's scheduled for October 8th through 12th at the riverfront. The advisory board came in and talked about the river boats, music, food celebrations. It's really to celebrate the region's river travel history. They're expecting over 1 million attendees. About 30% of those are from outside the region, with about $150 million in economic impact. So between the fireworks concerts and people being downtown, it's a pretty big project that's coming up. So be on the lookout for that. It seems like a good time if the weather's nice. There's a call for vendors right now. If anyone's interested in participating in that, there is an opportunity for smaller vendors to join that. The deadline is May 31st, and you just have to go to the American River Roots Festival website and you get more information on that. The board did allocate more 5310 funds, about $2.3 million per year. These are funds that are targeted towards seniors and persons with disability with transportation and mobility options. So that's primarily to buy some of those access buses, the point-to-point buses. So that money was allocated. We did approve a rideshare marketing campaign. This is another program that helps people buy a van pool where they would pay part of that monthly payment for a van as long as you have a certain number of riders. And it's managed by those riders themselves. It's an interesting project, and if you have the opportunity, you should look at more information that's available there. And the last thing that was done that's worth mentioning is the Intermodal Coordination Committee, the ICC. We updated our spending plan. There's about 5 miles of new Riverwalk and dozens of trail extensions that were approved to be put into it. So it's just still adding more to that vibrant, multimodal, pedestrian-friendly environment. Just like Springdale's doing in Kemper Northland, that's happening all over the region. We've certainly gotten money from these programs too. This is more money going out to help with that in the region. So that's it for the OK update, unless there's any questions. All right, next we'll move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things. This past Saturday, May 17th, we had a law enforcement expo down at the rec center. There were over a dozen different law enforcement agencies that were present, giving out hot dogs, showing a little bit about each one of those departments. Also had SWAT vehicles and equipment, as well as the rescue dive team equipment was on display. And they also had demonstrations with a canine partner and a tasing demonstration. I did not volunteer for that, but maybe next year, we'll see. Springdale Elementary School had student council hosting our police, fire, city staff, and elected officials, and many of you all were there for that event for lunch on May 14th. As usual, children were engaging, had a wonderful time with seeing all of our city employees and representatives. Heritage Hill allowed me to come in and spend some time with them on May the 13th, reading to 73 of my kinder friends, and we went through and read a few books, and they had a great time and were fun as well. And the Memorial Day wreath laying ceremony will be this Friday, May 23rd, at Veterans Memorial at 1 o'clock, and so folks are all welcome to attend that as well. And lastly, our city commissioner, health commissioner, Matt Clayton, was just appointed to the Ohio Environmental Health Specialist Advisory Board, and that is a term that will go from the present until May 31st of 2028. So congratulations to him. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Just one question on your report. You mentioned the taser demo. Is that something where council could take action to encourage or help? I didn't know, I wanted to help get you in that line if that's what you're after. I think we could probably
maybe we can fundraise for one of our good causes in the city and see if I can take a shot. If I do it, I'm going to start on my knees. I don't want to fall down. I think that'd be embarrassing.
Maybe we'll just put this in old business for next time and we can talk about it. Let me get back to you on that. We can think about it. All right. All right. Next up, Administrator's Report, Mr. Ewell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick couple updates. Update on our Public Works Director. We have finalized and made a job offer. We're currently in the background phase right now. Hopefully by next week we'll have that wrapped up and we'll be able to make an announcement on who that individual is at our June 4th meeting. Just want to let you know the restrooms, the outdoor restrooms behind the concession stand back at the community center are completed. A couple punch list items and a couple inspections, and they should be open hopefully within the next couple of days. There's been quite a bit of work being done on the pool itself, on the walls, which required some work and repainting. So that was all completed within over the weekend actually, and the intention is to begin filling the pool Thursday, and we are scheduled to open that pool on this Saturday at noon. So, and lastly, just a quick update on our Memorial Day hours. The community center itself will be closed on Monday, Memorial Day. However, the pool will be open noon to 8.
And I'm sure we're expecting warm water, well, with it being 60 degrees outside and being filled on Thursday.
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll be fine.
The heater is not on.
Good, good. All right, well, it's still a good time. I know the pool opening is actually a fun event that a lot of people go to, so we look forward to it. All right, next up, Law Director's Report, Mr. Braun.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report tonight.
All right, Engineers Report, Mr. Riggs.
Thank you. So, notice that construction work continues on Northland Boulevard. The contractor did make a traffic change. We call it Phase 1A. They will be expecting to move over to Phase 2 maintenance of traffic, which would involve switching the traffic over onto the newly constructed side. So that should happen next month. I don't have the exact date yet, but as soon as I get it, I'll let everyone know. The Northland Kemper intersection realignment and shared use path project, as well as the East Kemper improvement project, phase 1 project, we're in the process of wrapping up the preliminary engineering. We're putting together public meeting exhibits and survey questions for an online public engagement session for both those projects. So that'll be going on likely at the end of this month, maybe early in next month, and continue through the month of June. So those two projects will have an opportunity to provide, for the public to provide their input. That's both going to be going on at the same time. There's the other effort that the city's putting out is the Safe Streets for All initiative to improve the safety of all the roadways. We're also putting out a study for that at the same time. So there'll be 3 surveys, public engagement opportunities for the community to provide us their thoughts and feedback. So it's going to be a lot of information out there for the next month, but it's all meaningful stuff. So just wanted to mention that. Then the new project, well, it's actually a resurrected project. It's the Springdale Industrial Park Concrete Repairs and Catch Basin Reconstruction Project. This project started several years ago and was put on the back burner due to budgetary concerns. It's coming back to life now. It's for curb and catch basin replacements on Container Place, Centron Place, Progress Place, and Tricon Place. So it's just the curb and catch basins where we hope to follow up with the paving the following year. We're getting close to wrapping up the design on that, and ideally bids will go out in June and be open in July. That's all I had.
All right, don't see any questions. Thank you, Mr. Riggs. All right, next on the agenda is the Rental Program Committee. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rental Committee met on May 13th, and we were discussing the classification of single-family rentals in residential districts. At this point, we've asked legal counsel to investigate some options that we can have, and we will wait for that return and get back together.
All right, don't see any questions. Thank you. All right, lastly, we have the Urban Farming Special Committee. Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Urban Farming Committee met May 7th. We were going to evaluate whether there was any more work to do. Mr. Jacobs and myself had both had people reach out to us during the chicken discussion and asked us to take a look at bees. So we did look at several models from other communities. There are already several state and county rules in place. So we have asked admin to draft something that will get sent to Planning Commission for review and feedback.
All right. Any questions or discussion on that? All right, seeing none, we'll leave the committee as is for now then. All right, that's it for committee and official reports. Next up, communications. Ms. Browder, are there any communications for council this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. No communications.
All right. Next up, we have communications in the audience. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council for any reason, this is your opportunity. Simply need to come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and then you can address council for up to 5 minutes. The floor is now open.
Hello, Julie Tudor. Last week, I had the pleasure of awarding the Springdale Offering Support Scholarships at the annual Senior Awards Banquet at Princeton. And those winners were Caitlin Higgins and Deja Shipley. We'd like to bring both of those recipients in at the June 18th meeting to publicly recognize them and acknowledge them. So I just wanted to mention that to council. Thank you.
Sure. So we'll make sure, let's put that on the agenda for June 18th to have the presentations at the beginning of the meeting. All right. Thank you for that. If anyone else would like to address council, this is your opportunity.
Good evening. My name is Denise Taylor. I'm a proud member of the Greater Cincinnati Realtors Association, also the chair of the Advocacy Committee. And we just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about our organization and see how we might be able to mesh with Springdale. We are a local chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is also known as NAREB. We were founded in 1947, rooted in the democracy of housing. This means we're committed to ensuring that everyone, regardless of background, has access to home ownership, financial education, and the opportunity to help build generational wealth. As realtors, we are licensed professionals here in Cincinnati, and we don't just help families, we help buy and sell homes, we also educate, advocate, and serve the community. Just a few of the highlights of the things that we do: we educate and empower. We offer home buyer education workshops, credit readiness events, and financial literacy. We partner with the community. We collaborate with churches, schools, and community leaders. We align with city goals, so we're excited about the possibility of working with the city of Springdale. We are equipped to guide residents through market education, down payment assistance and credit repair, and the full ownership journey. Our network includes not only realtors, but we also have lenders, credit counselors, appraisers, stagers, estate planners, contractors, and so many other professions that are part of us. In Cincinnati, we are the 5th largest of all the chapters. There's 100 chapters all nationwide. We are the model chapter because we have high engagement and impactful programming and deep commitment to our mission. Last year, we had the pleasure of being here for our Political Advocacy Day, and we had 3 mayors. Mayor Hawkins was one of the mayors. We also had Woodlawn and Forest Park, and we just talked about things that are happening in the community, so it was a really great event. The vision for Springdale, we're here tonight because we believe that Springdale is a place of promise and opportunity. We know that home ownership is one of the most powerful ways to anchor families, strengthen neighborhoods, and create wealth that lasts for generations. We would love to partner with you all. We partner all the time with city leaders, community stakeholders, and local residents. So in just closing, I just want to say on behalf of the Greater Cincinnati Realtors Association, we thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. We look forward to walking alongside you as educators, advocates, and neighbors committed to making Springdale a city where everyone has a place to call home. Thank you.
Thank you. And just, if I can, a question. So and sorry for the clock. I know you had reached out ahead of time to present. We weren't quite sure if you wanted to do a formal one or not, so that's why the clock was just to keep us honest.
Sure.
I didn't want that to discourage you from saying everything you needed to say.
Yes.
But one of the questions I had is, what's the best way for our community to engage with you? I know you had that conversation last year with political advocacy. Home ownership is a topic that we've spoken about in our special committee for going on 2.5 years now. We formed a rental program committee because what we're finding is areas of our community were largely single-family homes being converted to rentals, which changed the look and feel and the dynamic for some of our areas. And we've been struggling with what that has done to some of our services and public safety. What kind of things can you help us with that? Is that the kind of thing where you have ideas on how to better engage with those types of community members, or is it more around zoning policy? Like, what's the best way to get the most out of this relationship?
Certainly, yes, we can definitely help with that. We have, like I said, a ton of resources of different people that work with us. I guess the next step would be maybe setting up a meeting to go over, specifically what we can assist.
Okay. I know some communities have had, seminars or like workshops and that kind of thing. Is that more what you typically do in communities?
Yes.
Those like, a 2-hour and you have the people come through and talk about it? Or is it more geared towards like lawmakers?
We do the lawmaking side too, but we're definitely more for the community. So if there's any events, home ownership events, things like that, we can definitely assist with that.
Okay. I just want to make sure you get plugged into the right way. I mean, that would be more geared towards administration. They arrange with like the rec center and with Mr. Wilson and the Parks and Rec arranging those kinds of adult education programs. So it sounds like you're plugged in there. All right. Are there other questions from council or other comments that you had?
I don't. Okay, no. Thank you for
All
having
right, we
us.
appreciate you coming out, introducing yourself again to us. And it sounds like we've got contact information. If we want to set something up, we can.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, the floor is still open if anyone else would like to address council. Second call. Third and final call. All right, at this point, I'm closing communications from the audience, and we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. First item we have up is ordinance number 19, 2025. This is a second reading, and there is a public hearing that we're required for this. Just so everyone's on the same page, how we'll do this is we'll go ahead and do the reading of it with the date of the public hearing in here. Before we decide to take action on it, I'll open the public hearing. We'll conduct the public hearing, and then I'll come back to council and we can decide what we want to do in terms of motions to adopt and things like that. So it's a little bit different than we have done in the past, but we're trying to make sure that people understand what the public hearing's for. So we'll do the reading, have the public hearing, then we'll take action. All right? All right, Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 19, 2025, an ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to rezone the property located at 1171 East Kemper Road from office business OB to public facility PF. Whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the request of the property owner to amend the zoning map of the City of Springdale, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of the property located at 1171 East Kemper Road from office business OB to public facilities PF, and whereas at its meeting of April 8, 2025, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and has recommended approval of the requested rezoning by a vote of 7-0. And whereas the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio Council held a public hearing on May 21st, 2025, pursuant to the requirements of the zoning code. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The proposed amendment to the zoning map of the City of Springdale, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of property located at 1171 East Kemper Road, as further described in the attached Exhibit A, from Office Business OB to Public Facilities PF, which has been reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission, is hereby approved by Council. Section 2. This council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council, and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3. This ordinance shall be effective from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Council, ordinance number 19-2025 requires a public hearing. At this point, I'm opening the public hearing related to ordinance number 19-2025. If anyone would like to speak for or against this ordinance, this is your opportunity. Simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and then you have up to 5 minutes to speak on this specific ordinance. At this point, the public hearing is now open. Second call. Third and final call. All right, at this point, I'm closing the public hearing related to ordinance number 19-2025. Council, you've heard the reading of ordinance number 19-2025, and having had the public hearing, what is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just again want to reiterate that this did go before Planning Commission, and it was unanimously voted 7-0 to approve. Thank you.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our applicant is present today. If we do have specific questions, she'd be happy to answer some of those.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this can be for commission members or for the applicant. Was there any discussion for how long folks would stay typically?
Would you prefer, is the applicant? Okay.
Yeah.
If you're coming forward to answer the question, if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Monica Hedges, and thank you for the opportunity to address. So it would be classified as a crisis stabilization unit, so the stay would be 60 days or less. We have 6 facilities, so they would get stable there, start their symptom maintenance, and then move into our facilities.
Thank you.
Other questions or discussion? Mr. Gleaves.
Do you know how many employees you will be having at this facility?
15.
15, thank you.
Still open for discussion. Well, if I knew you were here, I wouldn't have gone so fast to that public hearing. I would have given you an opportunity to come up then. So if there's anything else you'd want to say on it, I certainly give you the opportunity.
No, I'm just excited to be here. It's been a learning process, but I'm excited to be here.
All right.
It's a beautiful building.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other lights, Ms. Browder, if you poll council on ordinance number 19-2025.
Mrs. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Aye.
Mrs. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves.
Aye.
Mr. Vanover.
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. Ordinance number 19-2025 passes with 6 affirmative votes. And again, thank you for coming to Springdale. We hope you enjoy it, and if there's anything else we do, you know where to find us.
Thank you.
All right, council, we're moving on to the next item is ordinance number 2025. This is the second reading. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 20-2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a written amendment to the agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment in the city of Springdale. Whereas the city of Springdale, the city, entered into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment located within the city related to certain state roads and highways through the passage of Ordinance 18-2022, the agreement. And whereas the city entered into a first written amendment renewing the agreement with the passage of Ordinance 10-2023. And whereas the city seeks to enter into a second written amendment renewing the agreement. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. Council of the City of Springdale Council agrees to authorize the mayor and city administrator to enter into a second written amendment to the agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation related to the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment located within the city of Springdale related to certain state roads and highways, the amendment. A copy of the amendment is attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the second reading of ordinance number 20/2025. What is your pleasure?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? I'll be glad not to have to say 2025 again. I think I misspoke at least 3 times on that line. All right, seeing no other lights, Ms. Brady, if you poll council.
Mrs. Seldom-Weiskopf.
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves.
Aye.
Mr. Vanover.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. Ordinance number 20/2025 passes with 6 affirmative votes. All right, next we'll move on to ordinance number 21/2025. This is a second reading and does have the emergency clause that was amended at our last meeting. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 21/2025, an ordinance enacting and adopting the 2025 S-28 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Whereas the City of Springdale contracts annually with American Legal Publishing Corporation to prepare an update to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Ohio, the City Code, to reflect changes and ensure that the City Code is in compliance with recent revisions to local, state, and federal laws. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The 2025 S-28 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Ohio, as prepared and submitted by American Legal Publishing Corporation, a copy of which is on file with the Clerk of Council, who certifies that the codification, renumbering, and rearrangement in book form is correct, is hereby adopted and incorporated by reference as if set forth herein in its entirety. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which result in a formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law. Section 4. This ordinance shall be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and general welfare, and shall, subject to the terms of Article 2D3D of the Charter, be effective immediately. The reason for the emergency is to enact and adopt the 2025 S-28 supplement at the earliest possible date to ensure immediate compliance with revisions made to local, state, and federal laws since the last update.
Council, you've heard the reading of ordinance number 21/2025. It does have the emergency clause. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, Ms. Brady, if you poll council.
Mr. Vanover.
Aye.
Mrs. Seldom-Weiskopf.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves.
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. Ordinance number 21/2025 passes with 6 affirmative votes. All right, next on the agenda is ordinance number 22/2025. It does contain the emergency clause. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 22/2025, an ordinance authorizing the City of Springdale, Ohio to enter into a 3-year lease purchase agreement by and between Fifth Third Bank and the City of Springdale, Ohio, in principal amount of $360,286 to finance the purchase of an ambulance for the City of Springdale and authorizing other documents in connection therewith and declaring an emergency. Whereas the City of Springdale, Ohio, the city, desires to finance the purchase of an ambulance for the purpose of providing emergency medical services in the city, the property, and whereas the financing and leasing of the property will be in the best interest of the city, and whereas Fifth Third Bank, Fifth Third, has agreed to purchase and or finance the property and to lease the property to the city, and whereas the city has agreed to lease the property from Fifth Third, and whereas the city hereby finds and determines that the execution of a lease purchase agreement in a form to be negotiated to the satisfaction of the mayor and city administrator, the lease, and in the principal amount not exceeding the amount stated above for the purpose of acquiring the property to be described in the lease is appropriate and necessary to the functions and operations of the city. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. For the purpose of providing an ambulance for the city and the services rendered thereby, this council hereby determines that it shall lease, under the lease, the property from Fifth Third. Section 2. The city is authorized to lease the property through Fifth Third. Section 3. For the purpose of providing the property and payment of costs of issuance related to the lease, this council hereby authorizes and directs the mayor and city administrator to negotiate, enter into, execute, and deliver, in each case on behalf of the city, the lease and any exhibits thereto, in a principal amount of $360,286 payable over a period of 3 years at an effective interest rate of 4 and 9,433 0.1% per annum. The remaining terms of the lease shall be negotiated in a form approved by the mayor and city administrator in a manner not inconsistent with this ordinance, and the execution thereof by such officials or either of them shall be deemed conclusive evidence of such approval. This council hereby further authorizes and directs the mayor and city administrator of the city to execute on behalf of the city all other related contracts, agreements, and certificates necessary and incidental to the lease and any exhibits thereto. Upon execution, the covenants and promises contained in the lease and ancillary documents made on behalf of the city shall be conclusively binding on the city and in full force and effect from and after such execution. Section 4. The city's obligations under the lease shall be subject to annual appropriation or renewal by this council, as will be set forth in the lease, and the city's obligations under the lease shall not constitute a general obligation of the city or indebtedness under the Constitution or laws of the state. Section 5, this council hereby authorizes and directs the mayor and city administrator, or either of them, to execute and deliver a non-arbitrage certificate and such other documents and certificates, and to do all the acts and things required of it by the provisions of the lease to the end that full and complete performance of all of the terms, covenants, and provisions of the lease shall be effected. Section 6, this council hereby covenants that it will take such actions in such manner and to such extent, if any, as may be necessary to cause the interest component of rental payments under the lease to be and remain excludable from gross income for federal income tax purposes. This council will also submit the appropriate statements or filings to the Internal Revenue Service containing the information required by the Internal Revenue Code, including IRS Form 8038G. Section 7. The obligations under the lease are hereby designated qualified tax-exempt obligations for the purpose set forth in Section 265 of the Internal Revenue Code. This city does not anticipate issuing more than $10 million of qualified tax-exempt obligations during the calendar year 2025. Section 8. The proceeds of the lease shall be credited to the proper fund or funds as provided in the lease, and those proceeds are appropriated and shall be used for the purpose for which the lease is authorized and are hereby appropriated for that purpose. Section 9. Council hereby approves the issuance of the obligations for the financing of the property. Section 10. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council, and if its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 11. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law. Section 12. This ordinance shall be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and general welfare, and shall, subject to the terms of Article 2D, 3D of the Charter, be effective immediately. The reason for the declaration of emergency is the immediate issuance of said lease obligation is required for the orderly and timely financing of the property referred to herein, including obtaining a favorable rate of interest.
Council, you've heard the reading of ordinance number 22-2025. It does have the emergency clause. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one word finally.
Yeah.
This has been, what, a 4-year process? 3. You know, and we've got one further down the line in works too, so nothing happens quickly, I guess, but it's good to have it in and get it on board.
Is there a christening ceremony planned? Is the fire department going to do something, or is that just, we're just going to just start using it? All right. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mrs. Solomon-Iscup?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 2025 passes with 6 affirmative votes. All right, Mr. Jacobs, have you gotten your breath back? That was a long one.
Right.
When you're ready, we'll move on to ordinance number 23-2025. This also contains the emergency clause. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 23-2025, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances Incorporated and declaring an emergency. Whereas the Ohio legislature has enacted electric deregulation legislation, which authorizes the legislative authorities of municipal corporations, townships, and counties to aggregate the retail electric loads located in the respective jurisdictions and to enter into service agreements to facilitate for those loads the purchase and sale of electricity. And whereas the voters in the city of Springdale, Ohio, the city, have previously authorized the city to aggregate the retail electricity loads within the governmental boundaries of the city and enter into service agreements for the sale and purchase of electricity, such aggregation to occur automatically except where any person elects to opt out. And whereas the city has successfully completed and submitted to the state of Ohio all required paperwork to become a certified competitive retail electric service provider in order to provide governmental aggregation services within the state of Ohio. And whereas the city's energy aggregation consultant, Energy Alliances Incorporated, the consultant, has researched and provided the city of Springdale with competitively bid electrical rates. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The city administrator is hereby authorized and directed to enter into an electric master service agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances Incorporated for the City of Springdale Electric Aggregation Program. Section 2. The city administrator is further authorized to execute subsequent agreements as needed with regard to stabilizing electric costs. Section 3. Any qualifying residents, businesses, or other electric consumer within the governmental boundaries of the City of Springdale, Ohio can request at any time and without cost to switch the type of energy resource used by contacting the consultant or the chosen supplier. Section 4. Any qualifying resident, business, or other electric consumer within the governmental boundaries of the city can request at any time and without cost to opt out of the program by contacting the consultant or the chosen supplier. Section 5. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council, and if its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 6. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law. Section 7. This ordinance shall be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and general welfare, and shall, subject to the terms of Article 2D, 3D of the Charter, be effective immediately. The reason for the emergency is to further enable the city to secure a commodity at the lowest available cost for the benefit of the taxpayers at the earliest possible date.
Council, you've heard the reading of ordinance number 23, 2025. It does have the emergency clause. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Mr. Vanover.
Just a quick note, the electric world has changed. Mr. Gleaves earlier was asking a question. It is basically broken down into 3 sections: generation, transmission, and distribution. And transmission are the big towers out there. Duke is not in the generation business. They sold what would have been Synergy generating plants many years ago. They've shut down some. So that's what really, that change is kind of what has forced this development to into being. And so it is the numbers, as Mr. Dieters stated, we get a better deal with the larger size of the community versus some of the smallers. And Mr. Anderson was correct. There are some shady characters out there. We all get them at the door, and it's like, I'm sorry, we're in our city aggregate program. I'm staying. And just be aware that they're out there trying. But this is probably the best deal we can get, and I wholeheartedly support it.
Other questions or comments? I do want to take a minute also to acknowledge that I do see that for people that do want to opt out, this does cause some inconvenience to them. I do appreciate that. I don't think that's nothing. But I do see it as important for the greater good that more people are able to save money by using the program that the voters voted for so many years ago of an opt-out program. So we're limited in that space to an opt-out program, which is what this is. And as you've seen over time, over the length of contract, it saves people a lot of money. And I think it's important, especially in these times, that we do things like this to help where we can. We're not just adding costs or increasing taxes, we're also trying to find ways to save money and make it easy and protect our residents. I think this is one way we do that. So I appreciate the work that goes into this. And I know our contractor has responded to residents directly several times, and it's a good resource to have. So I think it's an important program. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Dieters made a good point. Duke is, in fact, an opt-out program. You're there unless you move someplace else. So we're not really creating anything adverse or creating a hardship. The reality is, if you stay with Duke, to leave there, you have to opt out. So it is he was right, and it's, a legitimate process.
All right, seeing no other lights, Ms. Bride, if you poll council.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mrs. Solomizka?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 23, 2025 passes with 6 affirmative votes. All right, next we'll move on to ordinance number 24, 2025. This is a first reading. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 24, 2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton County, Ohio, to administer a 2025 small event grant. Whereas Hamilton County, Ohio has established as part of their 2025 general fund budget the small event grant program to promote economic development in suburban communities through the support of smaller community-focused events in Hamilton County, and whereas interested local governments can apply for funds to implement and host events with costs including equipment rentals, entertainment and performers, marketing and promotion, security and insurance, permits and licenses, and other expenses eligible for grant funds. And whereas the City of Springdale, the city, submitted an application for Springdale Pretzel Fest to be held on August 2nd in the heart of the city, the event that will include expenses directly related to the event. And whereas the city seeks to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of Hamilton County Commissioners accepting the grant funding available through the Hamilton County Small Event Grant Program. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The Council of the City of Springdale, the Council hereby authorizes the Mayor and City Administrator to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of the Hamilton County, Ohio, to administer a 2025 small event grant, the agreement. A copy of the agreement is attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this Council, and that all deliberations of this Council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Braun, this is a financial ordinance, so we can act on it tonight. It doesn't require a second reading. Is that correct? Mr. Braun? Or do we need a second reading?
No, we will need a second reading on that one.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, so this was the first reading of ordinance number 24, 2025. Council, if you have any questions or discussion on it this evening. All right, seeing none other than I'm excited that we do have a grant coming in for our project. I think it's great that we're able to locate another one to offset the cost, so we appreciate that work. We will see this again at our next meeting. Okay, next up on the agenda is Resolution R12, 2025. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Resolution R12, 2025, a resolution approving the final Hamilton County 911 plan pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 128. Whereas the state of Ohio has enacted legislation under Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 128, governing the establishment and operation of enhanced 911 E911 systems, and requires counties to develop and maintain a comprehensive county-wide final plan for public safety answering point PSAP services, and whereas Hamilton County has completed development of its final 911 plan in accordance with requirements of ORC 128.03 and ORC 128.06, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton, Ohio, formally approved the final 911 plan on April 10, 2025, following the procedure set forth in Chapter 128 of the Ohio Revised Code. And whereas the Council of the City of Springdale, having reviewed the final 911 plan and finding that the plan supports the continued enhancement of 911 service delivery within the county, desires to approve the plan as required under ORC 128.03 and related provisions. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, with members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio hereby approves the final Hamilton County 911 plan as adopted by the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners on April 10, 2025, as authorizes its submission to the appropriate county and state authorities as evidence of the City of Springdale's approval pursuant to ORC Chapter 128. Section 2. The Clerk of Council and the City of Springdale, Ohio is hereby directed to certify a copy of this resolution to the Hamilton County 911 Planning Committee for inclusion in the record of jurisdictional appeals. And Section 3. This resolution shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the reading of Resolution R12, 2025. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mrs. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Vanover.
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. Resolution R12, 2025 passes with 6 affirmative votes. All right, that's the end of ordinances and resolutions. Next up is item 12. Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to go to executive session under Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3 to conference with counsel related to pending litigation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion about moving to executive session? Administration, are we expecting action out of this? No. All right, Ms. Brady, if you poll council on moving to executive session.
Mrs. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Aye.
Mr. Vanover.
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves.
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. We are in executive session. We will return. All right, council is back in session from executive session. Next, we'll move on to item number 13, old business. Is there any old business anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Is there any new business anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward? I do have one item to bring forward just to put on your radar for our next meeting. Something we've talked about in other meetings previously. We've talked about the zoning and building code needing some larger changes, more structural changes. Over the past several years, administration and other people on council have talked about, hey, we'll get to that when we look at a bigger look at it. Like, do we need to change the things out of the zoning code or building code? When we looked at the urban farming work, we said, hey, really some of this stuff needs to come in a bigger kind of look. So in discussions I've had with administration and also with Mr. Oakham in planning, we've thought that it would be a good idea to go ahead and do this, to get started on it. And I think we actually have taken some action on the administrative side, preparing for that. So what I wanted to do tonight is make council aware formally that we intend to set up this committee, a zoning building code revision committee. We'll set that up officially, and the idea is that it would have a member of City Council, it would have a member from Planning, it would have a member from Zoning, BZA. Each of those committees and commissions would elect their own member to that committee. And then additionally, there would be representation from administration, building official, police, whatever administration departments would be required, public works, whatever it takes along the way. But the core voting committee would be the 3 members, and then the other members would be there in a supporting capacity. City planner is another one that would be heavily involved, and I know has a list. So the reason I bring it up tonight is to make you aware that this committee will be formed and that I will be looking for us to assign a member in our next meeting. That way, Ms. Webster hopefully will be back and can contribute her views on who should be on that committee from council side. I believe planning already had some discussions in their last meeting about their membership. I'm not sure if they selected somebody or will at their next meeting. They might have been waiting for us to take our action. That's something that will be added to our second meeting agendas going forward is this committee. But in our next meeting, we'll go ahead and assign our member to it. So think about if you want to be a part of that, what do you think it would be? And even if you're not, it's your opportunity between now and then to think about that list that you might be keeping from the work that you've done on council for, hey, this never seemed right, or this is something we kicked down the road a little bit that needs to be looked at. The idea is that that committee would start doing work this year, especially around scoping and identifying the problems or the changes that need to be addressed. I know Mr. Oakham, for example, mentioned he has several sections that he thinks needs to be looked at. Some more modernization of it in terms of look and feel, like pictures that might be helpful for residents, that sort of thing. So between now and our next meeting, think about who if you want to participate as council's rep, and then also what you think they should be looking at in that committee, because we'll want to give that to the committee when they kick off, kind of what their scope of work should be, at least including. That committee would be self-forming. After we form the committee, that committee will then decide its specific action items. The goal is that this year they would identify the scope, do as much work as they can, identify those areas. But I do expect this work to carry on into next year because it is a pretty substantial change from at least what I'm hearing. So don't expect it to be a, hey, quick one ordinance and none. It'll probably be repeated things. And that committee would then work through that process. The committee would make recommendations just like any other committee would. Any changes would go to planning for its review and to council, and depending on how those changes or what those changes were, the committee might be sending things directly to council to act on first to send to planning. In other cases, they might send things directly to planning first before it comes to council. Those are all things that the committee will be working through, so it'll be a real work type thing that's involved there. So just know that if you raise your hand to be a part of it, just know that it is one of those committees that will need to be active and will involve working with the public as well, with public hearings and getting feedback as well from that group. All right, so let me pause there and ask if you have questions or comments about this. Mr. Vandover.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll throw my name in. I've served on planning, I've served on BZA. You know, I've been there, done that. And with long in tooth longevity, I think that you know, would fit well. I mean, we've had discussions about some of the sections here that you know really need to be readdressed. So I'd be happy to start down that path.
Good. Any other questions or comments about the committee that's being formed? Administration, did I describe that correctly? Are you okay? Are you on board? We're going on our own here. Mr. Yule?
Yes, we're good with that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we will have this on our agenda for our next meeting. We'll have the committee formed, and then if you have feedback, be prepared in our next council meeting. If you have questions about the scope, specific things you think they should look at, please come prepared to share those either in the meeting or directly after with whoever our representative is. It doesn't have to be all done in that meeting, but if you have items in our meeting, we will select a member to it and then be prepared to share with that person as our primary point of contact back to that zoning building code revision committee. All right. Any other new business anyone else would like to bring forward? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to meetings and announcements. Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission will meet in these chambers on Tuesday, June 10th at 7 p.m.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one announcement that I forgot to add in my report earlier. That is, the pool opens on Saturday between the hours of 1 and 4. We will have a special reception with a free hot dog or slushie, or maybe I'll talk to Mr. Wilson about maybe some hot chocolate in lieu of a slushie, depending on the temperature that day. But between 1 and 4, back at the pool, each member can receive a hot dog or slushie. And we will also have the presence of DJ Steve Nice joining us on the pool deck. So thank you.
All right. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Zoning Appeals will be meeting the 27th of May at 7 p.m. in these chambers.
Any other meetings or announcements? All right, seeing none. Next up is a second opportunity for communications from the audience. If anyone in the audience would like to address council, this is your opportunity. The floor is now open. Simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes to address council. The floor is now open for communications from the audience. Second call. Third and final call. All right, I'm closing communications from the audience. Next, we'll move on to a recap of legislative items and legislation still in development, in whichever order makes the most sense to Mr. Jacobs.
Council, as you review your legislative summary, item 1 was addressed by ordinance 2025, which received a second reading. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a written amendment to the agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment in the city of Springdale. That passed with 6 affirmative votes. Item 2 was addressed by ordinance 19, 2025, receiving a second reading and a public hearing. An ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to rezone the property located at 1171 East Kemper Road from office business OB to public facility PF. That passed with 6 affirmative votes. Item 3 was addressed by ordinance 21, 2025, receiving a second reading. An ordinance enacting and adopting the 2025 S28 code supplement to the Springdale Code of Ordinances and declaring an emergency, passing with 6 affirmative votes. Item 4 was addressed by ordinance 22, 2025, a first reading with an emergency clause. An ordinance authorizing the City of Springdale, Ohio to enter into a 3-year lease purchase agreement by and between Fifth Third Bank and the City of Springdale, Ohio, in a principal amount of $360,286 to finance the purchase of an ambulance for the City of Springdale and authorizing other documents in connection therewith and declaring an emergency. That passed as well with 6 affirmative votes. Item 5 was addressed by Ordinance 23, 2025. An ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances Incorporated and declaring an emergency. That passed with 6 affirmative votes. Item 6 was addressed by Ordinance 24, 2025, receiving a first reading. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton County, Ohio, to administer a 2025 small event grant. That'll be back at our next meeting in June. Item 7 was addressed by Resolution 12, 2025, a resolution approving the final Hamilton County 911 plan pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Chapter 128. That passed with 6 affirmative votes. Items in development for our next meeting include Item 8, a resolution adopting the tax budget of the City of Springdale for the fiscal year January 1, 2026 through December 31, 2026. Item 9, an ordinance authorizing contribution to certain health accounts of employees of the City of Springdale related to the city's health insurance plan will receive a first reading on June 4th. And all other matters are forthcoming unless there's anything administration would like to add.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to request the setting of dates for the major modification to the PUD at 865 East Kemper Road. That is the AutoZone, Best Buy, K&G Men's Mart. There's a major modification that went through Planning Commission and that was recommended to council. So if council was so inclined, we could set those dates for June, and then we could get the public hearing set for the second reading.
Thank you, please, yes. So for the 2 meetings, we have the public hearing at the second one. And it's also a good time to call out that there is a public hearing required for the tax budget as well. So we want to make sure that's announced.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else on recap or legislation development? All right, seeing none, all that's left is item 19.
Move to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.